CD101. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You guys are a bit logy now that you've eaten, aren't you? You're we have to wake everybody up again. We are back for part 2 of a 3-part series here in the CD101 Big Room this afternoon. Thanks again to Robyn Hitchcock. Wasn't that wonderful?
It was wonderful.
Yeah. He's now in the control room giving us hand signals. And he looks like he knows what he's doing.
No, I was under the impression that he took over the control room. So if something else is on the air right now, it's definitely his fault. One of his records.
I said this about Robyn. This is like my dream come true, and I'm going to slobber and everything. But
really,
we already had Robyn Hitchcock in here. We're going to have Sebadoh later, and now the Flaming Lips are here.
Right,
all in the same day.
You're going to lose control of bodily functions?
I might. I might.
Okay.
But I'm a longtime fan of you guys' work, and it is a privilege to have you here in the big room today.
Well, thank you, Brian. Well, thanks so much.
Newport Music Hall tonight.
Okay.
Can you explain, because it seems like there's a concept.
There is a
concept.
Tour. Right.
Say it so that I don't screw it up, the name.
Well, the name we didn't actually have a name as of about, say, a month ago. Mm-hmm. We were going to do this tour, and we already had an idea of who was going to be on it, and Robyn and Sebadoh, and Cornelius, who's joining later, and Sonic Boom and stuff. And so we had this idea of this big variety show sort of thing. And we hemmed and hawed about what it was actually going to be called until the day we needed it. And that's how we do a lot of things. You know, you use every second that you have to contemplate what you're going to do, and then you just decide, and you hope it works. And so we were in England, and we assumed that we were busy, and we had a good excuse not to have a name. So the day came, and like, do you have a name for the tour? Because ads need to go in the paper. And I thought of really the idea behind it is that we are presenting our music with the concept of, and this is a scientific sort of thing. And you'll read this, and this isn't specifically about this today, but you read this in journals. And I actually saw it in Time magazine as I was flying back from Denmark just last week, that listening to music, more complex music, sometimes people consider jazz or classical music to be complex, but I think in the way that we're presenting a show, it gives you a big variety of music, and some of it is quite complex. But the idea behind it is listening to complex music gives you the ability, sometimes immediately afterwards, to think in more abstract and sort of solve more complex problems yourself. But the trick is that you actually have to listen to it. It can't just be playing, and you can't just stand there and get the benefits. You kind of have to listen to it. It kind of works this sort of magical muscle in your brain. And I don't think it's exclusive to music. I'm sure there's other things that work that, like mathematics and maybe reading and stuff like that. But music is one of those things that this effect happens to you, really, whether you want it to or not. So the idea was I'd present these ideas with headphones for the audience to put them in their ears, and all this music would sort of forcibly get into their brains, as opposed to like when people behind you are talking about their, what they did at work today, or what shoes everybody is wearing or something. You could be at the concert wearing headphones, getting all this music, whether you liked it or not, it would still be working its magic on your brain. And so we decided that we would just call the tour Music Against Brain Degeneration Revue. And people ask me, well, does it really stop brain degeneration? And I claim its effects are small, but real. But you do have to listen to get the benefits. So yeah, that's what it is. It truly is based on something real.
And you're handing out headphones on the way in tonight.
We do. When people come into the show, we anybody who's interested. Some people aren't interested, which is fine by me. But we offer. It's a headphone mix of the whole show, and you can actually stand in the bathroom if you want all night and still hear the show crystal clear and perfect stereo.
Wow.
Actually, much better than you can really hear a concert when you're there, because at a concert, speakers are 120 decibels, and you're standing sometimes 30 feet away from the speakers, and it gets to be quite a blur. And sometimes rooms are bouncy, and it sound kind of gets compromised a little bit in that sort of setting. So, our solution was, well, we'll give you headphones, and then it'll sound exactly the way we present it to you. And people will think that what's in their headphones is drastically different from what's coming out of the speakers. And actually, it's not. It's really the same thing, only what it's pointing out is the difference between what's really being played and what's actually being heard. And it's quite fun, really. A lot of people really like it. They really kind of like the freedom of not having to be right in front of the speakers to hear what's going on. And like I said, some people go to the bathroom a lot because they're drinking, and they can, wherever they go, it just is, it's there. So they miss none of the benefits of this, of the music sort of affecting their, hopefully their higher intelligence by the time we get done with them.
Wow. So get there early to get your headphones at the Newport Music Hall tonight.
Right, and I'm assuming that people are already intelligent. I'm not saying that people come to the show dumb and then we turn them out geniuses at the end of the night, Maybe that could happen, but...
Well, why don't you begin massaging our brain cells here with a song?
Okay, I will. I brought this article that's in USA Today, and it said, high-frequency duet helps fish do it safely. And it's a real article, and I assumed it was about us playing with Robyn Hitchcock, because he does songs about fish, and we do have high frequencies at our show. But what it is, it's talking about these fish who have altered their frequency of their mating call so they can sort of avoid their arch enemy, the electric eel, from eating them while they're doing it on the ocean floor, right? So I was just pointing out once again of how evolution in music is really evolution of sound. And humans make sound, and we call it music, but fish make sounds. And this next song that we're going to do, the next two songs are going to be have insects sort of as a theme that runs through them. And once again, insects, I think, to my ears, sometimes make beautiful sounds, which to me are beautiful music. And to replace real insects, this is kind of our reversal of roles here. Michael is going to make the insect sounds for us today.
Okay.
Now, whether they're actually beautiful coming from Michael or not will be up to his skill at insect
Stephen
imitation.
On piano.
Yeah. And Stephen will look like an insect while he plays the piano.
And Wayne, you will sing for us.
And I'll
It's the
sing
Flaming
about
Lips,
insects.
The Right Rug, CD101 Big Room.
This is a song called Buggin' that people think is in the it's on the Austin Powers soundtrack, but it's not actually in the movie. Some people ask us if we've met Austin Powers. We'll say no, he's not a real guy. He's just a guy in a movie.
Right. That's what I understand.
We were also in the Batman movie, and no one really asked us if we had met Batman.
So what's the difference, you think?
I think people really know that Batman is a comic book character, and I'm assuming that.
I wouldn't assume too much.
Maybe some
anymore.
people will still ask us. But we did meet.
Who played Batman in the one that we did?
Val Kilmer. No, we went Robin. That's who we met.
We did?
He was there
Chris
when...
O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Chris O'Donnell,
Yeah. So anyway, but this song is the song is called Buggin', and it actually has nothing to do with the Austin Powers movie at all, but it's sort of put on there. And it goes like this.
All right, here we go.
All those bugs buzzing around your head, well, they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and the summertime will make you itch the mosquito bites. The buzz of love is busy bugging you. Well, they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and they're splattered up and down your windshield, my headlights, and they bite. Yeah, they bite. But you can't see them there. But they bite. Yeah, they bite. But you can tell they're there. Does love buzz? Because that's what it does. Well, they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and the summertime will make you itch the mosquito bites, and they fly in the air as you comb your hair, and they're splattered up and down your windshield and the headlights. Well, they fly in the air and you comb your hair. Yeah, they fly in the air as you comb your hair.
Now, if we can get everybody in the room to go as loud as you can, we'll end on a big buzzing bug sound. Are you ready?
Buggin, Flaming Lips in the CD101 Big Room.
And everybody kind of spit on each other at the end, I guess.
That's all right. That's all
Sorry.
right. We're all friends in here, aren't we?
But it was spontaneous. I thought, that's
beautiful.
what bugs sound like, all a bunch of them together. Yeah.
Yeah, they all seem to hit a crescendo at once.
Yeah.
The Soft Bulletin, the name of the new record.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think you can talk about the making of the Soft Bulletin, and this is just me and my observation, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think you could talk about it unless you explain the album project that you did before, Zaireeka.
Oh, exactly, right.
Could you, because some people might have missed it because it was a limited edition.
I agree.
Right? Explain what it is, because it's fascinating.
It had limited appeal as well, I think, and we knew that going into it. We weren't surprised at its sort of limitations, which I'm not sure will always exist. But what it was is around 1996, we started to experiment with. We did this thing called the parking lot experiment, which was me and Stephen and Michael, and we had this idea we wanted to play tapes and sort of find a way to play sort of song structures and bits of songs that weren't necessarily connected, like whole pieces of music that sort of complemented each other or combated each other, and just to sort of see what happened. And when we say experiment, we truly mean that we are experimenting. We're looking for results, and we're sort of doing something with the results that happen. We did this for about 8 months, and it sort of was we were curious about where it was going to go, and we thought, well, let's put this to something that other people can hear, because we was ending up just inviting our friends to hear these little weird experiments that we were doing. So the idea we came up with was to have 4 separate CDs, all full of music in and of themselves, but they would be made to be played together. And some people wrongly think that you get one of those CD players that you can put 20 CDs in and that they're all going to play. Well, those simply play one at a time, obviously. And what you need is 4 separate CD players and speaker systems and all that, and each one of them will play a CD on their own. And we devised it with a little count off and everything, so you get your friends together and everybody goes 1, 2, 3, press, and it presses play. And remarkably, it really does work. And some people just think, well, this is just too much work and this is too absurd. But a lot of times you really find out that people have no friends. And they can't get anybody to come over to their house with a CD player and do it. But for the most part, the people who have done it will sort of rent out, clubs, and they'll set up 4 big, PA systems with big, speakers and everything. And it actually, it does work. And I think it's meant for people who really are curious about the evolution of music and its possibilities. Today, more than ever, you hear people talk about, it's all been done. There's nothing new under the sun, especially in music. And I argue that all the time. I say, you're crazy, just listen. And so in one way, this is just one way, and there's probably millions of ways that we're trying to contribute to realizing that music doesn't really have these limitations.
Well, here's what I did. I got the CD and I took it home, and I had 2 CD players. One of them was the stereo in the living room. The other one was my CD-ROM in my office.
Exactly. See,
There
you go.
I took discs 3 and 4, dubbed them off on separate cassettes, and I had them both in lousy boom boxes. And then I had the stereo in the living room turned way up, and that was like way far away. And I had one of my kids, now.
Right.
The problem was that my tape players were so cheap that the speeds were wrong. And after a while, I got this.
No, but see, that's part of the desired
My
effect.
kids are going, Dad, what's wrong? What's wrong? I go, this is really cool.
Right.
And then I brought it in here and multi-tracked it, and it wasn't as much fun as it was.
No, I agree.
Because
what happens is the rhythms sometimes will start off in sync, and then they veer. But what you want to do with your brain, because you're so used to hearing music be correct, and that's the beauty of having so much access in your car, at the mall, everywhere you go, music is playing, is that you somehow understand how it's supposed to work. You hear a drum beat, and usually everybody just plays along with it. But with our music, what we try to do is even though you're familiar with these elements, the drum beat might start to veer. In your head, you want to pull them together. And that somewhere in there, when that happens with your brain, there's a moment where we're trying to put new music in there, where you're saying, how come the rhythms aren't working? And that's what Zaireeka does. I mean, the name of the record is Zaireeka because it's a freaky record. It deserved a freaky name. And it does that. It pulls these elements that usually flow together seamlessly, and sometimes it makes them pull apart, and you grow to get used to it, and other times it puts them together when they start out not together. So it really has all kinds of great combinations. I think 2 CDs is fine. You should be fine just playing, 2 of them together. 3 if you get used to that. 4 is really for the, it's for the people who are really, really out for a good time.
Well, it was fun.
It's like taking drugs. Start off with 1 and do 2. And as you build up, your tolerance gets a little more, and you can handle more.
The Flaming Lips are here in the CD101 Big Room. How did you talk a big record company into letting you put that out?
Well, everybody thinks that they were the ones on drugs and not us, but it's not true. I mean, they truly do trust us, and we've produced our own records since 1983, really.
Yeah.
And we don't ask for absurd amounts of money, and they wouldn't give it to us. I mean, they give us a lot of money for the way we live, but to them, the amount of money they give us is fine. And they like what we do. I mean, they really, when I was doing these earlier experiments, people from Warner Bros. Were there. And they knew we were heading into some direction that wasn't going to be something they could sell 1 million records with, but something that they thought was valid and interesting. So it wasn't ever a struggle.
And this is where you had like 40 cars in a garage, and everybody had a different element on a tape, and everyone would crank their car stereo.
And you could see, if you walked into that, you could see, now what have these mad men come up with now? Because I think sometimes people think that we purposely veer away from what popular music is doing and just want to do something weird. And we truly don't. We just do what we like, and if other people like it, well, that's fine. And if they don't, well, we really just want to do what we like. And I think Warner Brothers sees that, and I think they think that's worth doing. And sometimes people do buy our records, sort of just because they like them, not because they're doing anything weird.
Well, you made an interesting point in an article I read last night while I was preparing for this. You were talking about the new album, the Soft Bulletin, and how all these experiments you were talking about caused you guys to approach making music in radically different ways. But somehow in the end, you ended up making something that was almost pop sounding.
No, I used the word commercial. I mean, I think when people say commercial music is supposed to be, the arch enemy of the artist. And, and so everybody's always like, well, you want to have your artistic freedom or whatever. And we do. I mean, I think most people truly do have artistic freedom. They just don't exercise it strongly enough. Well, we do, and there's never any question of that. And it's just a given. So when we began to make the Soft Bulletin, we were doing some of the songs while we were making Zaireeka. So there was these outwardly experimental things that we were doing that we knew even amongst ourselves that was kind of bizarre. But we would isolate ourselves up in Western New York, and sometimes this incubation of weirdness, we get so weird that we have nothing really to compare it to. So as we started sort of compiling these songs that were end up being on the Soft Bulletin, some people would walk in and we expected them just to go, oh boy, you fellas, you guys have just gone too far.
Right.
This is really unlistenable at this point. And they really would react just the other way. They thought, oh my God, you guys are really, now you're finally really starting to arrange and do melodies the way normal people want to hear music. And while we thought we were being the most indulgent weirdos we could be, it almost just went just the opposite. And we started, it was appearing to everybody else that we were making it almost totally normal. I mean, we would just do the most absurd processes sometimes to come up with what now we hear it now. And we think, well, that sounds like a typical choir of voices and maybe some harmonies of some horns and stuff. And we would go to kind of absurd lengths to try new sounds. So it just goes to show you that, I mean, really, the best and most calculated approach sometimes doesn't work, and the best, most calculated approach the other way sometimes doesn't either. So I'm glad that music and ideas can sort of retain an unpredictableness of what's going to happen, and hopefully it works out for the better.
Well, this is really, I was trying to think of a word to describe it. It's really a pretty album.
It is, I know.
It's very lush, and if you're a longtime fan of the band, don't go in with any preconceived ideas of what it should sound like, but definitely check it out, the Soft Bulletin, and go through it a couple times. It's a wonderful record.
Well, thank you,
congratulate you guys on it. You want to play another song?
We're going to play one more song, and this goes with our theme that we slightly touched on of drugs, and the other theme that we've been sort of pushing today is the bugs. All right?
Okay.
And this song is a true story. Now, it's not on the Soft Bulletin, but the other one is. So. Yeah, it's promo and us just doing what we like kind of at the same time.
Right on.
All right.
Piano, so.
Flaming Lips.
We have a fine piano here.
The CD101 Big Room.
Okay.
You want to go?
We'll
you
go
tell
and
the story first. Or?
You go and I'll tell the story sort of over you.
All right, sure.
And again, Michael's going to be making bug sounds back there. This song is called "Put the Waterbug in the Policeman's Ear," and this is based on a true story. One day, as we were talking earlier about how schedules work, we were doing one of these a song for a compilation or something like that, probably CMJ or one of these weirder sort of things. And they asked us to do it, and we always say yes, and then at the last minute we throw it together. Well, I was going back to my room where my 4-track and everything is set up to sort of prepare this song because we needed to send it out because I was late. And my brother's wife called me on the phone and said that my brother Marty was down at the hospital. And the cops had taken him there and didn't know if he had a heart attack or what was wrong with him. Well, I just readily assumed that no, he didn't have a heart attack, that he takes a lot of drugs. Now, this has been 5 or 6 years, and he doesn't do that so much anymore. By the time he got used to just whenever he did something, he would take these downers. I believe they were Xanax. That would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Enough of it.
How do you know so much about it? Anyway, and so he was at the grocery store and taking drugs, I guess, at the same time, which I don't recommend, but it wasn't me. And for some reason, he couldn't find his car once he got done at the line there. And he sort of, I think he went into someone else's car and passed out, and he ended up, like I said, the cops probably would have taken him to jail, but they thought he had a heart attack or something. So I get this call, and I have to interrupt this thing that I'm setting up to do this song and go down there and sort of rest assured that no, he's just done too much and he'll be fine. So it turns out I go down there, he's still passed out. Later on, he gets up and just walks home. And when I asked him about it a couple days later, he knew nothing about it. But in the meantime, I had to go back home and get this thing done. So in typical sort of, I don't really have anything to say songwriter fashion. I just use whatever is available to me. I came up with this song. And this song isn't literally true, but I sort of exaggerate some of the better elements just for more dramatic effect. So as the story goes, you'll sort of see what happens.
My brother's at the store, a genius when he's bored. He contemplates his consciousness. He feels his hands, they sweat. He can't connect it yet. So he pulls all his resources and he calls up the insects he commands and the water attack the policeman.
So see, in my story, he's got these sort of special powers. And remember the guy, that Willard guy, who had the rats as his friends, and whenever he got into any sort of struggle, any sort of confrontation, the rats would come and just eat up the person. Well, in my story, of course, it's all these authority figures that are trying to get him because he's too high on drugs. So in his sort of screwed up imagination, he's on the drugs, and whenever they start to hassle him, he just calls up all these bugs, because there's probably a bunch of bugs around his house or something. And that's Michael back there. That's the Waterbug sound. And they sit under the water heater back there, and they're clicking away.
My brother's at the morgue. He gets up off the floor. He contemplates his escape, but a guard waits at the door. He feels his powers soar. He pulls all his resources, and he calls up the insects he commands, and the water bugs attack the policeman. He tries to make it home. He stops to use the phone, but he can't remember where the house is. And a cop waits at his car.
Oh, God, what if I don't know.
Well, he must feel his powers soar.
He feels his powers soar.
Sure has. I was like, I don't fucking know.
And he pulls all his resources once again.
It must be something like that. I actually have it must be. Soar and car, that works, right, Robyn? You would do that. Yeah, I've heard worse. And now everybody knows, if you can sing along.
And he calls up the insects he commands, and the water bugs attack the policeman. Yeah, the water bugs attack the policeman.
Thank you very much.
The Flaming Lips in the CD101 Big Room.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks.
That was lovely.
Are we free to go now?
I will release you momentarily.
Okay.
I want somebody to run this CD into the control room, though, because I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Because I want to hear the Spiderbite Song from Soft Bulletin.
Okay, there you go. One more in this sort of trilogy, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a story behind that song that once I read the story and then I listened to the song this morning, I'm going, oh my gosh, what a beautiful sentiment.
That's what I mean. That's what I say. I don't really have ideas for songs. I just go about living my life and things that happen. I think people sometimes think that you have to be abducted by a UFO or live through an earthquake or something before you have material to write a song. And I don't think that at all. I think everyday life, just waking up, drinking some coffee and feeding your dogs, I think those sort of things can be extraordinary in and of themselves. And so that's the sort of events that end up just being in our songs, these things that in my view are magnificent. And sometimes it is really better than stuff you could make up. So it was around Thanksgiving 1996.
Yeah.
Stephen was getting something out of his garage and he gets bit by a spider. He doesn't think much of it, and a couple days goes by, and his hand balloons up. Robyn, you've got a song about ballooned hands or something, don't you? Yeah,
Balloon Man.
Robyn's in there scouring at me. And so he goes to the hospital, and it's brief, but the drama was real. And they thought briefly that they may have to cut off his hand, and you can see how much he uses his hands.
He's playing the piano.
He's a marvelous musician. Yeah, and without one of his hands, that wouldn't be as good. And it escalated up from there. They thought perhaps he could even die. Now, this all happened within an evening, but he's calling me from the hospital. Geez, they may have to cut off my hand. And I said, well, don't let them just yet. We'll get a second opinion or something. And then he calls back. He said, well, I could die. And I'm like, well, that second opinion might not come through, and you could be dead or whatever. So you could see the drama of that moment, And I think to myself, this is great stuff to write a song about this. And so I'm thinking about these sort of things. So Michael, about 2 weeks later, I don't write songs quick. I just think about them for a while. Michael, a couple weeks later, was probably going to get something to eat or something, and he's sitting at a stop sign, and he's looking at traffic going left and right, and he looks left, and here is a wheel that's come off of, obviously, a spare tire that's just loose from some car.
No, it came off the car. It was the front tire. I watched it happen. This car is coming down the street, and the tire comes off, and the car goes skidding down the street, and this tire, I was hypnotized by it. It was swing, it bounced, and it missed the windshield by about 2 feet. It hit the hood and bounced off the hood again, and then rolled down the street. But it was coming pretty quick. It put a big dent and dented the door, and I couldn't get out of I couldn't get out of the car.
Yeah, he's trapped in his car, and so again, there's just these crazy sort of unforeseen events that seem, even if it's real brief, kind of life-threatening out of nowhere. And so I thought, well, this is working. And I had several other verses about destruction and kind of unforeseen things that are going to happen. So I sort of nicely tied up these real events in a sort of metaphor about the unforeseen dangers when you fall in love, and how much damage how much not good it can bring, and how much damage it can do if it doesn't work out for you. And that's kind of the idea behind the Spiderbite Song. Is it starts off with the spider bite and then goes to Michael, and then sort of ends up with this nice metaphor about just the dangers of love in general. So there you go.
Well, let's play it now from the new one, the Soft Bulletin.
Okay, and you're gonna release us from the big room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
thought you locked everybody in here, so even if it was bad that they couldn't leave.
No, it was wonderful, and it was a privilege having the Flaming Lips here. Wayne, Stephen, Michael, thank you. And tonight, the Newport Music Hall, the Music Against Brain Degeneration Revue.
Exactly, and it's
Save
a true
your
thing.
brain.
Yeah, we got a DJ known by the name of Tranquility Bass. We have Sonic Boom, who makes a lot of crazy, never heard before sounds with his little toys. We have Robyn Hitchcock. We have Sebadoh. They're coming in later.
Yeah.
All right, in a little bit.
Yeah, they're supposed to. I guess they got lost though. So
we did. Yeah. So it's a full night of, and it goes by, and hopefully it's well organized and it's quick, and hopefully it's real entertaining for everybody. And like I said earlier, we have the headphones and all that sort of stuff. We have nice little commercials that play in between the bands, and hopefully, even if you don't like all the bands, hopefully you can come in and have a good time anyway. So.
Well, we'll see you there.
Okay.
The Newport Music Hall tonight.
Okay.
From the Soft Bulletin, the Spiderbite Song, the Flaming Lips. This is CD101.
All right.
Live performance from the CD101 Big Room. We return you now to CD101 Command Central in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
WWCD 101.1 FM, Grove City, Columbus. For the 7th year in a row, voted best radio station in Columbus by the readers of Columbus Monthly. This is CD101.